disasters that have occurred here in Mississippi. I think all of you know the background. Over 21 counties have been affected by these storms. Confirmed 12 deaths that have occurred across the affected area. Unfortunately, we are continuing our search and rescue efforts. There is still what we believe to be one person missing in Winston County, a child, so those search and rescue efforts go on. But as those continue, we're beginning the recovery and restoration phase of this disaster, which includes our congressional delegation. It also extends to the not only to our congressional delegation, the United States senators and congressmen, but to the White House. Many of you may know by now, I asked the President yesterday in a letter to expedite the declaration of emergency, a national declaration for the state of Mississippi, setting out the indications of why we believe that should take place. Now that would, if approved, and I will say our congressional delegation has been kind enough to follow that up with a letter asking the President to heed our call to expedite the national declaration. That would necessarily then afford federal relief for individual assistance to include those who are without a place to live, so that we might have support for individuals of housing assistance. We have some 876 homes that we believe have been totally destroyed or have major damage to them. So as you can see, housing assistance is important. Individual household programs, as we refer to them, disaster unemployment assistance would be included in that individual assistance. A national declaration would also include public assistance for such needs as the Richland Fire Department. That facility has been heavily damaged and may be totally destroyed, so we would be able to reach out to provide that. Obviously, the Winston Medical Center, Winston County Medical Center, which is heavily damaged, would be included in the public assistance. That's about 75% federal funding, 25% state funding. Thus far, we have about $1.2 million obligated of state funds. This would be also in addition to the $20 million that has been obligated for disasters, previous disasters, some 9 other previous disasters. About $20 million will be obligated for local assistance for those. So obviously the importance of the declaration by the President of the United States cannot be emphasized. Today, I'm honored that, as I said, our delegation is here from Washington, D.C. They have, as I appreciate it, been on the ground in Tupelo, Mississippi, met with the local leaders there, have helped asset some of the damage, and are here to speak to what they have been able to see and what actions should be taken here from a federal level to make sure that we receive the assistance that is necessary in this type of disaster. I'll start with our senior senator from Mississippi, the Honorable Thad Cochran. Senator Cochran. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Governor Bryant. Thank you very much for inviting us to join you for this discussion of our joint effort to be sure that the victims of this disaster and the local governments and our state government are treated fairly by the federal government and in our programs that are authorized by federal law, that the assistance they are entitled to is provided to them expeditiously. And if we need additional support later on, we're perfectly willing to continue to follow that up. Debris removal was a big issue we came across in our first stops today to view the areas that are hard hit by this storm. And this is a situation where I think you'll get additional funds to help pay the costs of the removal. But attending to the individuals themselves are the highest priority. And we want everybody to know that we're available, and if you know of any instances of injustice or callous behavior on the part of the federal government or any of its agencies, you'll let us know. because we want to be sure our people are treated fairly. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Roger Wicker, of course, has a home in Tupelo, Mississippi, and is a resident there, and is, I'm sure, has particular concern for those individuals. And Senator Wicker, we're hoping the very best for all of your friends and neighbors there in Tupelo, Mississippi, and turn for you to comment.
Well, thank you, Governor. Tupelo was our first stop today. We began actually meeting with TVA officials. And you know, that map is pretty striking, but it doesn't tell the entire story. We're told today that this is the largest TVA power outage ever in the history of TVA for North Mississippi. So the damage there and the recovery effort there are very extensive. We met with local officials in Tupelo, also individuals who've been affected. This is our second stop. Our delegation will go on and land in Starkville and take a driving stop then down in Winston County. We're here to see the facts. We're here to listen to people on the ground, and as Senator Cochran pointed out, to make sure that all of the benefits that are authorized by statute are being are being awarded to our citizens. Let me also mention that, of course, this is not by any means our first stop here at MEMA headquarters. I've been here for hurricanes, for other disasters, but also to celebrate the installation of state-of-the-art radar equipment. And the thing I want to point out in that regard is, even as the storm was sweeping across our state, the storms were sweeping across our state, the federal government was very much involved with state-of-the-art equipment, with the best information the National Weather Service could provide us, getting the information to state and local officials. We are convinced that hundreds of lives were saved by the early warning that these government programs provided to our citizens. In my view, this is government at its best. Now the recovery stage is on. FEMA and MEMA personnel were on the ground immediately working with local responders, and so we're just here. We feel as a delegation it's the best use of our time to see facts on the ground today, and we appreciate y'all coming out and showing an interest also.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator. Senator's absolutely right. The assistance of the federal delegation started the day of the storm. I was on the phone to each one of the members of the delegation. They were pledging their support. And we were able, because of the federal assets that had been put in place previously, able to track this storm and pinpoint the location of almost every one of the tornadoes that touched down and affected those areas. A remarkable new technology. I also want to recognize Congressman Alan Nunley here today. Congressman Nunley, thank you. Again, a Tupelo resident, someone who I know is deeply concerned about the difficulties that have occurred there to the people because of this storm. And Congressman Greg Harper, Congressman Harper's district, particularly in Rankin County. I was in Richland this morning and in Brandon looking at the damage there. It seems as if we've concentrated so much because of the damage in Winston County and Lee County that we need to also recognize the damage that occurred in Congressman Harper's district, and I know he is aware of that and has reached out to the local officials in Rankin County to help them. One of our strongest federal partners is FEMA. Whether it's Katrina or other incidents that have occurred after that, FEMA has always been on the ground early. Mark Landry is here today. Mark is the federal coordinating officer for the IMAT team. He arrived in Mississippi yesterday and went right to work. He is helping us as we can assess the damage, making sure that we are doing all that we can to meet the standards that FEMA has for the state of Mississippi, while also helping provide vital information to us. Mark, I'd like to call you forward if you talk a little bit about FEMA's role in assisting MEMA in this disaster.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you, Senators, Congressman General, and members of the greater Mississippi community. We practice very hard together with our counterparts in emergency management in Mississippi, and it's so when we're ready to execute missions as we have over the last few days. It's a strong partnership. It's a very healthy partnership, and we're proud to be a part of it. We're trying to anticipate every requirement and to provide the best possible advice that we can to our partners in Mississippi Emergency Management. That's what we've been doing for the last 48 to 72 hours. And from here in, we're just anticipating a decision by the President of the United States. But having said that, we're trying to do everything so that when that decision comes down, should it be a major disaster declaration, that we're fully prepared to execute that response to benefit the lives of citizens, to benefit communities so they can recover quickly and get on with business as normal. So it's an extraordinarily strong partnership. I think we've set the template to support the citizens, and I'm very proud to represent FEMA, as well as the federal agencies that are here, the Department of Defense, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, along with the U.S. Department of Transportation. We've tried to bring as much and early the power of the federal government to support Mississippi. So Governor, Senators, Congressman, General, we're very proud to be here and offer the best assistance that we can. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it so much. We are also accessing other support. A $50,000 request has been made to the Appalachian Regional Commission. Those funds that would be available to the ARC could go for any number of things, purchase, for example, of equipment by local cities and counties. That would be administrated through MDA. We hope to get those funds available as quickly as possible. As we said earlier, we're reaching out to other locations. For example, in South Carolina, there is a facility working through the Department of Health that is basically a portable hospital. We would like to be able to have that asset to move into the Louisville-Winston County area, and it was yet to be determined whether or not we will be able to obtain that, but that's something that we're working on. Our National Guard, the 155th, headquartered in Tupelo, Mississippi, has done an outstanding job. We were just on the phone to the mayor there in Tupelo, has requested that we leave those assets in place to lean forward into the communities that, particularly the neighborhoods and surrounding areas that have been affected for security reasons there, and we intend to do that. Again, it is a priority that we protect not only those that are continuing, that need our continual help, but those that might come to this area to provide assistance. And we again ask volunteers not to self-deploy, to make sure that they are coordinating through the Red Cross. They can coordinate with volunteermississippi.org. One of the things that we always look at in disasters is we go about with citizens with chainsaws, with downed trees, being on top of buildings. That is a dangerous work, and so we're ever mindful that we don't create additional injuries by people who are working hard to help their friends and neighbors throughout the state of Mississippi. And as you all know, this is a remarkable state. As we were in Louisville yesterday to seeing the number of volunteers that are helping one another, the people that are coming in and out of the First Methodist and First Baptist Church there are just remarkable, and they will continue to work night and day until this disaster has been contained and we begin our restoration and recovery efforts. These gentlemen that you see behind me and others, and we've reached out to Congressman Thompson's office, as we said yesterday, and we are hoping that, and we know, and hoping that the President will make a quick decision. This also affects Arkansas, Alabama, and Florida, and some portions of Tennessee. So as soon as the President makes a decision on this major disaster declaration, we will move forward. We'll be glad to take any questions you might have now.
Governor, do you have any sense the dollar figure from the disaster damage across the state?
You know, we don't, and that's one of the problems that we're running into. Bill, do we have some rough estimates? I know as we looked at that $4 million threshold on the public assistance, we're unfortunately going to surpass that with just the Winston County Hospital and other public assistance needs that will be available.
Just quickly, we've already just seen, this is just the tip of the iceberg, but we've seen at least $9 million.
And that's from just the preliminary reviews. Over 2,000 homes, as we said, that have been totally destroyed and damaged. around 50 to 60 businesses. And the other thing that we're concerned about, if you talk about the costs, as I was meeting with mayors early this morning, the number of employees that are working, for example, along the corridor and Highway 49. We're worried about unemployment, how they receive unemployment, how long those businesses might be closed. A large business in Louisville, Mississippi was totally destroyed, 400 employees there, so it's critical that we try to get that business up and running again as quickly as we can. And those are the multipliers that we are yet to put forward, but we know that with FEMA's assistance and being into the field in the next several days, we'll have at least an idea of what the overall cost will be. But I would say it would be quite large.
There seems to be confidence that we have enough damage to qualify for major disaster declaration. Is there any doubt that we'll get it?
I really don't think so. I think it's just a matter now of moving through the system to the president's desk. I'd be very surprised seeing the amount of damage that we have here, the lives that have been lost, the impact, financial, economic impact on the state of Mississippi is going to be great. I certainly think the president's going to sign it just as soon as he is able to review it and do so. I'd be surprised if that didn't occur rather soon.
These stories about these warning systems actually working that could have prevented this?
Absolutely. So many people that we talked to were tracking these storms on their devices, electronic devices. I talked to a gentleman yesterday that his son was with him and was telling him the amount of time that it would take before they could take shelter, exactly how quickly it was moving in. Almost everyone now, you can go to the MEMA website and download an app to be able to track radar and see these storms moving. And that's the amazing part now, that we can literally track a storm within very short amount of time, within minutes, and the exact location of where that tornado will be. So I talked to many people, and if you look at, as I was in throughout the neighborhoods, family after family came up to me and said, we knew it was coming. We heard it 2 days ago. We took it seriously. Many of them moved their automobiles because they understood what hail could do to it, and they took shelter. And the stories are numerous of people who said, we emerged from our shelter, which is, most of them was the hall closet or bathroom, and saw total destruction of their home and around them. I talked to an elderly couple yesterday in Louisville, Mississippi, that did just that, he and his wife, and they were in their 80s, took shelter in an inner hallway closet. And the most difficult thing they had was trying to dig their way through the debris that had collapsed onto the hallway, but they were both safe. So the warning systems have worked, and we believe, as Senator Wicker said, saved hundreds of lives.
For any of the gentlemen who actually lived in the disaster area, what was it like for you when you toured to go back and look at the devastation where you're from, where you live?
Well, I was looking at the homes and the businesses of my neighbors and my friends. The pictures that we had seen in D.C. could not do the damage justice. I think it brought back recollections of stories I've been told about the tornado that hit Tupelo in 1936, wiped it off the face of the earth. Over 200 people died. And I'm convinced, without the early warning system, that the damage that I saw this morning would have resulted in a greater loss of life. But thankfully, we had an early warning system, starting with the National Weather Service, working with the state emergency management, the local emergency management, and the local media, and people were prepared.
Following Hurricane Sandy, I guess you could answer this question. There was some controversy over giving money for these kind of disasters. Are you anticipating any kind of congressional hold up on this, or did you guys kind of work that out?
Well, it's still too early to determine at this point. We did start a process of allocating funds for national disasters. In a country as large as ours, we know that there are disasters that will occur. We just don't know when and where those will occur. So we started as part of the regular appropriation process, setting aside money for disasters following Sandy. What we don't know is that whether this will require supplemental appropriation or not.
There shouldn't be any controversy.
So some members of the Republican leadership in the House won't say there has to be an offset, or that the federal assistance has to make sure that it's paid for.
Again, we'll just have to, first of all, get a tally for what the cost is.
Well, I know the question was about a set off or a pay for, but there's money budgeted for disasters around the country. So until we know the full effect of that across the country, as we approach not too far down the line, the end of the fiscal year, we'll have to look at that to see whether or not there'll have to be a supplemental. But I just want to say how much it means to us in Mississippi, and how much it means for me to be in my home county and to have Senator Cochran and Senator Wicker here and Congressman Nunnally, and to have come from Tupelo to be here to tour some damage in Rankin County and then to go see the devastation in Winston County later today. The effort has been overwhelmingly supportive, and Mississippi's a great state where communities come together and work together. And I particularly want to thank the governor, the MEMA staff, and certainly FEMA being present here, and General Collins, the effort of the National Guard, particularly the 155 Heavy Brigade Combat Team, is just remarkable, the work that they're doing now. We thank all of them.
Were you personally impacted by this?
Other than being fearful like everybody else, because I was in D.C. and my wife and daughter were in the closet at our home in Pearl as the storms came through, and my son up at Mississippi State University, not knowing what the storms would be. It's a very fearful thing when we have bad weather, which we seem to have in Mississippi. And of course, I'm old enough to remember Candlestick Park. And so it's something we always have a healthy respect, and so we have friends in Richland, Pearl, and Brandon that have been impacted, and we'll look forward to visiting with them later today.
Senator Cochran, what would you be telling the people you see who are victims of this?
Well, we have already been out in the state, in the areas we were able to visit just today, encouraging people that, there's help on the way, and it's authorized and funded, and we expect it to be carried out in a humane and generous way, supported by the evidence of the damage that entitles them to these benefits. So I'm encouraged that throughout our state we are a neighborly group of people who are used to adversity in terms of weather-related changes and flooding, and we pitch in and help our neighbors when they need it. And through our local and state and federal agencies that have responsibilities and authorities under the law, I'm convinced that we will have a very generous response to the victims of this storm.
Senator Wicker and Congressman Nunnally, did either one of you have damage to your personal property?
Were we personally impacted? Yes, my wife's childhood home that is on the market right now was damaged, and we're dealing with insurance right now about that. But the main thing is, I was in Washington, D.C. My wife was at work in Tupelo. She got word that that this was dangerous. The community got word. The schools shut down. Businesses got shut down because the information got to the public. She was able to get to the safest basement possible. And it's a tribute, really, to the effort that we've all put in over the decades to make sure the public is warned. So we're all impacted by this, but yes, she was huddled in a very safe basement. Schools were dismissed, and businesses, I think, very wisely sent their people home.
That's the last question that we have time for. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Thank y'all very much. We appreciate, I do want to tell you how much we appreciate what you have done. I saw newscasters that were having to leave the studio as the storm was impacting their area. That's pretty remarkable. And so many people survived because they were watching their local television programs that were ongoing. They were listening to the radios, and you helped save a lot of lives. Thank you for that.
preceding has been a special report.
Controlling, zipping, tying a knot, turning a knob. We use our thumbs to write the song. The list goes on and on and on. Do great apes and humans have in common? We can bend them, stretch them, snap them. They're awesome.
PBS. Potatoes can be found underground. Potatoes are the best veggie around. Potatoes are good when they're mashed or baked, and that's what I want when I'm having a steak. Mashed are great because they're easy to eat, but they're better when they're baked because the skin's the treat. It has the most nutrients for you and me.